welcome. I'm so excited for today. I'll be talking with Dr. Marie Thuin, who wrote the book, What is Compersion, and has done a ton of research and a ton of just scholarship around this topic. And so we'll be talking a lot about, well, the title of her book, What is Compersion, and going into some more details. And we'll be specifically talking about this for people who are beginners or who haven't yet experienced compersion or think they haven't. And I think we'll probably be busting some myths or be sharing some things that might surprise you. So very excited to get started. Ooh, I love seeing so many folks here. Feel free to say hi in the comments. Love seeing so many familiar names. Love seeing you all. Hi. And Dr. Marie will be joining us in just a sec. I'm going to get all propped up and ready to go. Hi. Yay. So happy to see you all here. Ooh, newbie. Perfect. You're in the right place. And if you have questions, don't put them in just yet because I won't remember them once we get started. But once Dr. Marie Thuin joins us and we get going, please pop in any questions you have about compersion so you can ask us while we're having the conversation. And yeah. So how many people, if you want to pop into the comments, just curious, how many folks are familiar with the concept of compersion already and know what it is? And how many folks are just brand new to the concept and idea of compersion? Yay, yes. If you're a newbie, you are totally in the right place. This is a conversation for 100% newbies, either newbies to polyamory, newbies to compersion, or all of the above. Familiar but struggling. This is going to be such a great conversation. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, perfect. And I think some of what we'll be talking about might surprise you and might be things that a different way of thinking about compersion. I know when I read the book, What is Compersion, that Dr. Marie Thuin wrote, I learned some new things or some different ways of thinking about it that I hadn't experienced yet. So yeah, I think this is going to be a good conversation. And if there are things that you hear that are new to you or that surprise you, either let us know in the comments here or leave a comment on this afterward. If you can't stay for the whole thing, we will be putting a recording up of it so you can catch the whole thing later if you aren't able to do it. If you're not able to stay for the whole thing. Let me just check and see if she's here yet. Oh, there she is. I think maybe I was the one slacking there. Sorry about that. If you're here. Ooh, someone said they think they found it already. Amazing. Hello.
Hello, my dear. Good to see you.
So good to see you too. I'm very excited to have this talk. I actually have read your book. It's been a while. It's been
Cool.
quite some time, but I really, well, let me introduce yourself before I just launch in.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marie Thuin. I'm the author of What is Compersion, which is a comprehensive academic book on compersion based on my PhD research, interviews with about 25 polyamorous folks, and a lot of coaches and educators who explained to me, and I distilled the knowledge into some themes. What is compersion, and what does it take to experience compersion? That's really the gist of the book. So I'm a researcher, and I'm also a dating and relationship coach.
Amazing. Yes. And, I was saying at the start that I have, I learned some things or just some different ways of thinking about compersion when I read your book. What I really loved about the book was the way in which you categorize things and break things down really clearly. I especially like how you break down compersion into different parts, and then you go on to talk about different kinds of compersion. So for those who are joining us, it seems like a lot of folks joining us are newbies and are either new to polyamory, new to the concept of compersion, or both. So
Mm-hmm.
I would love to start with you just sharing a little bit on, based on this research,
Mm-hmm.
what the components of compersion, what you found like compersion actually is.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So just starting with the definition, the broad definition of compersion in the context of polyamory. So compersion is the broad range of positive thoughts, emotions, attitudes, and behaviors that we might experience in connection to our partner's other relationships. So just that kind of gives us a hint that compersion is not just an emotion. It's not just one thing. It can come in different forms and flavors. But the components of it, if you really distill it down, compersion is made of positive empathy and gratitude. These are kind of the two core components. Positive empathy, which can be either like a cognitive empathy, like I imagine what you feel and I interpret that as a positive event, or emotional or embodied empathy, which is I feel what you feel. And if you're feeling good, I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
So there's gratitude, which is like, oh, I'm grateful that you're feeling this. And that's another component of compersion.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of the positive empathy being cognitive or emotional, because I think a lot of the clients that I work with, they think of it only as the emotional part. They
Mm-hmm.
like the feeling of compersion. And I've had people who, when I've told them about these concepts in your book, or when they've read the book themselves, they're like, "Oh my God, I've experienced
Mm-hmm.
compersion and I didn't even realize it." Because,
Yeah,
and can you speak a little bit to that?
yeah, yeah, totally. I think that finding, like from my research, that compersion can be a cognitive or an attitudinal event, not just an emotional event, is really normalizing for people because it's so easy to think about compersion as just this bliss state, this emotional high, this like, oh, I'm so happy that my partner is out on a date. Like that's kind of the archetypal or the stereotypical compersion, but not everyone experiences it like that. And if you're not experiencing it like that, doesn't mean that you're a bad poly partner. And it doesn't mean that there's anything defective with your relationship. It might just be that you're more of like an attitudinal compersion kind of person, or even a benevolent neutrality kind of person.
Yeah. Yeah. So like when I heard about this, like and we can go into that attitudinal versus embodied more, because I'd love to hear more on that. But like when I
Yeah.
first heard about this idea of like the cognitive empathy, what struck me is like if you're saying like, oh, I want my partner to have fun on this date, or even if
Mm,
I'm struggling, like I might be really struggling right now, but I'm also simultaneously glad that my partner is having fun on their date, like
yeah.
that is a form of compersion, right?
Absolutely. And one of the myths that I, think we should all dismantle is the idea that compersion and jealousy or compersion and challenging feelings are mutually exclusive because
Yes.
they're not. It's like feeling happy and sad at the same time. Like we have a word called bittersweet. It happens, and it doesn't mean that the sadness is diminished or that the happiness is diminished. In the same way, we can experience jealousy and hard feelings and totally honor them and acknowledge them. We don't have to repress them, but we can also experience compersion. It can be something like, yeah, I'm feeling a little vulnerable about my partner going out on a date, and I really want them to have a good time. And that is a sincere wish. That's a sincere expression of who I am. Like both can be really true at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think too, like of people who might be like, I'm feeling insecure and I'm struggling and I'm like feeling a lot of jealousy right now, but I don't want to reach out to my partner because I don't want to take them away from their date in this moment. And like, that is actually a form of compersion, to be holding those two things at the same time, both the I'm struggling and I could really use some support, and also I want to hold this container that my partner's created and allow them to have that date. And
Absolutely.
I love the acknowledgement of that, and like the findings in your research that like the ability for those things to coexist, right? So like jealousy or distress or insecurity can coexist with compersion, you know,
Right.
like such a light bulb moment, I think.
Yes, yes, because if you fall in the trap of like trying to repress your difficult emotions and just kind of pretending to have compersion and to only have compersion, and it might end up backfiring. You might end up just kind of trying to stuff down those difficult feelings, but then later on lashing out or acting in really mean ways, and like it can come out sideways. So it's
Yeah.
better to actually acknowledge all the feelings, learn to communicate about them in a vulnerable way that's not harmful to the relationship,
Yeah.
and then let things coexist and really like use difficult emotions to understand yourself better, to understand your relationship better. Like sometimes difficult emotions and jealousy can be about a real deficiency in a relationship, or like what Jessica Fern would call like a crack in a relationship that might not have been revealed if the relationship was previously monogamous. And then non-monogamy just exposes all the cracks, like all of the weaknesses or the issues that
Little
were.
hairline fissures.
Yes, exactly.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, I'm curious. I want to, before I ask the next question, I just want to ask those who are with us right now, like if anyone is surprised to hear this definition of compersion, or if anyone, as you're listening, is having the realization of like, oh, I think I have experienced compersion. Like, let us know in the comments. I'd love to, yeah, know how y'all are taking in this information and what it's like to hear it. Because I think the other thing from what you were just saying, Marie, is like the it kind of addresses the idea of moving away from toxic positivity. We
yes.
don't have to like just repress every single like difficult emotion and be like, I'm nothing but happy. We can, we can have all of them. And actually it leads to such more like a better communication, better harmony within a relationship, to be authentically all of those things in a way that is, not taking our feelings out on our partners, but sharing
Hmm.
them vulnerably alongside and I think it can mean a lot to a partner to hear the both. Like, yes, I'm really struggling, and also I am really happy that you got this date that you were so excited about or whatever.
Totally. Actually, I think it can make the comparison mean even more. Like when you know
Yeah.
that your partner has a part of them that they're struggling, and they might be tempted to put up a wall, and to shut down or to lash out, and they really have, like decided within themselves from their own agency, like, I want to choose love and support and encouragement. That is gold. That can be like such gold for a relationship. And it's very different from, gaslighting yourself and just like abandoning yourself into like repressing your jealousy. Like you can express it, you can be real about it, you can make requests, you can have strategies of reassurance with your partner, and you can have compersion be a decision, not just something that happens because you might be the kind of lucky poly person who has just kind of like a general, maybe erotic compersion. Maybe your partner's other relationship turns you on, and that's kind of easy for you to access that. Or maybe you're just like really happy because you don't have anything in the way, and that is really great, but not everyone is that lucky.
Right. Yeah, and I imagine too, in some ways, I hear a lot of my clients who are newer to non-monogamy talk about like compersion as this destination. Like once I reach that, then I will no longer struggle. I'll never experience jealousy or insecurity. And
Hmm.
I think what I try to communicate to folks is that like jealousy and insecurity can be weather, right? They,
Hmm.
we can have rainy days or like a moment of a thunderstorm, and but like weather comes and goes, and once we plan for it, it's not disastrous. It's like, I have my umbrella, I have my raincoat, like sure, I wish it was raining, but it is, and it's not going to ruin my day.
Hmm.
And so I think if we can think about it in that way, it doesn't have to be like, oh, like I am still experiencing this and compersion didn't cure me of that or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, that's such a good analogy. I love the weather analogy. And
Yeah.
I like to say, compersion is not an on or off switch.
Yeah.
Like some people think like, oh, you either have it or you don't. And it's a gradient. It's a very nuanced and situational and contextual phenomenon. And I've seen people in my coaching practice, like they were polyamorous for 20 years and nothing was really, like rocking their world too much until like maybe one person gets into a new relationship and then, oh my God, it triggers the other person into like a new layer of insecurity. And, there's no shame around that. Like things change, contexts change, and we have to be nimble and present enough to, embrace reality when it comes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, do, do you, would it be helpful to explain a little bit about the difference between the attitudinal compersion and embodied compersion for folks?
Yeah, yeah. Like this is the main distinction that I make because attitudinal compersion is more of this cognitive compersion. Again, like kind of mapping onto like a circuit of empathy we have in our brain, which is called cognitive empathy. And it's the ability to imagine what another person is feeling and then to interpret it as a positive event. Like, I can imagine that my partner is feeling good right now. They're on a fun date with their other partner. And I think it's a positive thing. So I'm generally feeling positively about it, but I'm not necessarily like intoxicated and high and super happy and giddy from it. It's more of this low pitch compersion and it's very sustainable and it's very great, and something that you can also cultivate more of because you have more control over your thoughts and attitudes and behaviors than you have over your emotional reactions.
Right.
The embodied compersion is that emotional reaction. It's watching my partner kiss someone else and just feeling like, oh, that is so sweet, or feeling like that is so hot. Just generally having a positive embodied reaction that is not just an attitude or a thought. It's like, oh, like it affects me and I'm feeling what they're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's, yeah. And I love what you said about like one of those is easier for, like, is within our, more within our control, you know? It's like we can have influence over it more than the other.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I imagine that's an area to focus on. And I'm curious if we think about how, like, for people who are with us right now who are thinking like I want to experience more compression, how how can they sort of set themselves up to be able to like to be able to do that, or to kind of set up the building blocks for themselves to kind of move into compersive feelings?
Yeah. So now we're getting into the second part of my research, which is what are the factors that promote compersion and what are the factors that hinder compersion. And so the more of the factors that promote it you can cultivate in your life, in your relationship ecosystem, the better it's going to be. Mm. So I can go through the 6 factors, and literally I give the analogy of cultivating a fertile terrain
Oh,
for
I love
comparison.
that.
Like planting seeds that relate to all 6 of those will help you just have like a much better chance at compersion. Number 1 is a commitment to non-monogamous values and ideology. And that means really taking in principles and really like if you believe things like I don't own my partner, they are free to do what they want with their body, with their emotions. I really believe that strongly. I really believe that love can, love between my partner and I can coexist with them loving or being intimate with someone else. I think that's actually really possible. I really believe that them being attracted to someone else is not a negative reflection on me. So believing these kinds of things and working to also like believe that jealousy is not in itself a marker of like a problem in the relationship or with the person that you're with is going to be really important. And the flip side of that is being poly under duress, or people who have not fully chosen to be non-monogamous, but maybe are doing it to try to appease their partner or save the relationship, but really they have a lot of internalized mononormativity and they would rather be monogamous and they're not really fully on board. So it's important for people to, they don't have to be like excited and just be totally optimistic, but they have to have enough buy-in into non-monogamy for compersion to even have a chance to emerge. So
Yeah.
that's number one. Number two is security within self. And that means having an intrinsic form of self-worth, self-love, and self-esteem. Because there is, something inherently less stable or less secure around non-monogamy. And you have to have a higher degree, I think, of inner security and relational security. You have to find your source of security not in the exclusivity of the relationship, but in the specialness of your relationship with your partner and also your own self-worth. So the more you feel like strong and solid within yourself, the more compersion you might experience. And there is like a kind of a state, something that is like more of a constant quality for people, but there's also like an area where it can fluctuate. And what I mean by that is that I might feel really secure generally as a person, but if I didn't sleep last night and I didn't eat well, and maybe like I'm going through hormonal changes and that really kind of throws off my emotions, then it might be harder in that moment or, in that period of time. So there's fluctuation that can happen also based on how you feel internally.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because I think this, the idea of like that internal like sense of security is, first of all, like I think it's something that we can gain, we can work on, if you work with a coach or a therapist or someone around building that up. And then the second part, I think of it as like how resourced we are, right? So we have a baseline of security, but depending on our resources, like you said, if you've haven't slept or haven't eaten, or you just got some bad news, like you might be under resourced, in which case like things are going to hit you harder, or like old things are going to like pop up. And what comes up for me as I hear you talking about that is the importance of self-compassion as
Yes,
as we navigate those things, instead of like, oh my God, what does this mean about me? I'm a horrible partner. I'm bad at poly. I'm not cut out for this. Just being like, oh, I'm I'm having a tough time right now. This is hitting me a little hard. Okay. What can I do to be good to myself?
absolutely. Yeah, you have to have your own back, just like with any other relationship style, really, but especially in non-monogamy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So those are the two. So so far we've got the value.
Ideological commitment, yeah, to values and non-monogamy, and then security within self.
Yeah.
These are the two individual factors, and now we're moving into the relational factors, of which there are three. The first relational factor is relational security. So that means like how much of a sense of solidity and abundance of love is there with my partner or partners. So do I feel like the relationship is already kind of shaky and I'm already feeling really like scarce of spending time with them? Or is there a sense of like a saturation? Like there's enough love to go around. There's enough love and security for me to feel generous.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And that has to do with trust, communication, and transparency.
Yeah, well, and I imagine too that that's another one that can ebb and flow over the course of a relationship. I mean, for anyone who's been in a very long-term relationship, there are like you go through phases in the relationship, and different stressors can come up or things change in certain ways. And so, yeah, I think I see that one as like, sure, there's a baseline constant, but also, like just the things that happen in life, like a parent dying, job loss, or any of these things can, not maybe not fundamentally change it, but certainly put a damper on that or that feeling of
Mhm.
security.
Yeah, absolutely. The next factor is the relationship between you and your metamors. So the partners, your partner's other partner or partners are called metamors. So do you have a positive regard towards them? Do you think of them in a positive light? Do you even interact with them in a positive way? Being friends with metamors is not essential, but having a sense of a positive regard or having a sense of a positive integration of other relationships within your ecosystem is a really crucial factor in experiencing compersion.
Yeah. So that you found that pretty consistently in your research?
Yeah, that was consistent across the board. Like a lot of people actually gave me good examples where they were like, my partner is dating two different people. And with one, I feel total compersion because I really like this person. I trust them. They're kind to me. They're kind to them. They're just really good for our relationship. They bring a lot to the table. But with their other partner, I don't experience compersion because like I don't really like them. I don't fully trust them. They seem to not bring anything to the table, and my partner, is always like going to take care of them, and it doesn't feel good to our ecosystem. And so that's such a great example of how someone is not just compersive or not,
Yeah.
a case by case basis.
That's a great example. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to get into the psychology of why, like we would like or trust a metamor because, like there's the general like, oh, do I think they're a cool person? Do I think they bring something good to the table? But there can also be like envy and jealousy that can trigger us to not like someone. It
Yeah.
can be like, gosh, they're like a lot younger than me. They're thinner. They have more privilege in some areas, or my partner seems to treat them, you know, in a way that I was hoping to be treated, like which can bring the sense of justice jealousy, which was also coined by Jessica Fern in her book, I think Poly Wise or Polysecure. Um, and that means like if they're treating someone else, like if they're taking someone out on a lot of dates, and you felt like you've asked for a long time to go on more dates with them and it felt not available, that can really trigger a lot of jealousy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because what I often see is the like when there is discord between metamors, often the shared partner can play a role in that, right? Either like through triangulation or people pleasing or like not being clear in their communication. Um, they can contribute to that. And I think sometimes like metamors like take it upon themselves too much, like what's wrong with me or we need to work on this. And often I'm like, okay, we need to bring in the other person in this system too,
Yeah.
because everyone's part of this ecosystem and there may be some other things going on here. So I think your example just brought that to mind, that can be a factor worth considering also.
Right. The common partner has a really crucial role to play. We
Yeah.
call them a hinge partner, and there is such a thing as hinge skills. Like
Yeah.
how do you stay really present with different people's needs and requests and lifestyles? Like it's a lot to hold, and if a hinge is doing a really great job at it, then there will be probably a better integration of these different relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. So factor number 5, which is the third relational factor, is the perception of benefits received from your partner's other relationships. And that can look like my partner always asks me to go jogging, and I don't really like jogging, but I go because I feel like I have to fulfill all of their needs. But then they just started dating someone who loves jogging with them, and I feel relieved that I don't have to feel guilty that I'm not giving that to them.
Yeah.
And it can look like other things too, like sex, oh, my partner is dating someone who's kinky, and I don't have to feel guilty that I'm not gonna do the kinky things I don't really like to do with them. Or it can be a sense of, oh, I don't have to feel guilty that I'm going to go on a date this week because they're getting good dates. Like there can be a sense of like a real benefit to me and to our ecosystem. Like it brings more balance, or it can literally be like a benefit of, oh, I'm seeing them grow and
Mhm.
blossom in a way that I had never seen before. Like they're blossoming with this other partner and they're bringing that to me as well. And I'm just like in awe of how they're becoming more of themselves. And I'm so grateful. Again, kind of the theme of gratitude coming back. I'm so grateful to their other partner for sparking that and igniting that in them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reminded of like I often feel like I call it like NRE splashback where like when either I have NRE with someone new or one of my partners does, like that sort of like sparky energy can get fed back into the existing relationships too. And
Yeah.
I love that. So that
Mhm.
yeah, it seems
So,
like that's a version of what you're talking about too.
yes, totally. It's like, ooh, I get perks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get perks from this other relationship. So then we're moving into social factor, which there's only one, and it's coming into community. Part of cultivating a fertile terrain for compersion is often having a really supportive community of either non-monogamous folks or at least non-monogamy supportive folks around us. Like
Mhm.
it could be a coach, a therapist, a community, meetups, like communities around non-monogamy where you can go and feel like you don't have to hide.
Yeah.
And you can actually ask for help, and people are not going to just shame you for being non-monogamous. They're going to actually give you the help you need.
Yeah. Yeah. So for people, a lot of people have been popping on. Can you just, for those who are just joining, can you do a rundown, list the 6 factors that
Yeah.
help like create fertile ground for compersion?
Totally. So one is commitment to non-monogamy values and ideology. Two is security within oneself. Three is security within the relationship. Number four is the positive integration of metamor relationships. Number five is the perception of benefits from your partner's other relationships. And number six is coming into community.
Yeah, that's great. Thank
Mhm.
you. I want to be mindful of time and not keep you too long, but one last thing I was wondering is just kind of talking about maybe some either myths or common ways of thinking about compersion that people have that the research actually didn't support or that didn't bear out, that the research maybe disproved these ideas that are just out there that people have about compersion.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of doing research is like dispelling those erroneous myths. So
Yeah.
one that we did mention is compersion being an on or off switch, like you're either compersive or you're not. Totally not true. People are all able to experience compersion and jealousy in different contexts. So the whole thing is contextual.
Mm. Yeah. So another thing I hear in there, which you're kind of saying, but it also feels like uh, its own myth, which is some people just aren't compersive. Some people are compersive and some people aren't. And it
Right.
sounds like you're saying that's not true, that
Mhm.
anyone can experience compersion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, let's see. Other myths would be compersion and jealousy cannot exist at the same time. And that's not true. They definitely can and very often do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, me and my colleague Jolie Hamilton, who you might know, she's a jealousy researcher, we coined a word, comper struggle, to define like when people are actually experiencing both jealousy and compersion at the same time, but they're struggling because they would like to experience only compersion. Uh,
Yeah,
so that's a very common thing
I
that
love
we
that term.
office. Yeah.
Great.
Another myth would be if you're not feeling compersion, you're not poly enough or you're not a good non-monogamous partner. Also not true because, first of all, compersion can show up as an attitude and a behavior. It doesn't have to just be an emotion. But second of all, sometimes compersion is not the answer. Like I've met so many people who came into my office, asked me to fix their partner and give them compersion or teach them how to have compersion. But when I really inquire about the relationship, there were toxic dynamics, abuses of power, disrespect, and just really like a lack of transparency and communication. And in those cases, like, compersion is not what you should shoot for. Like, you should either try to heal the relationship or find a new relationship, because you can't just like have real compersion when there's no respect and honesty and love and care and goodness. Like you need to have a really healthy relationship to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so true. I also think that like compersion isn't the answer in that like compersion isn't going to solve anything else, right? Compersion is nice, but it's not going to eliminate jealousy. It's not going to eliminate insecurity. Like it might help with those, but those are like dual tracks. They're not like one or the other.
hmm I see compersion more as an outcome of a
Mm,
really good
mm,
relationship with oneself and with others, rather than something that should be like a medicine or something that you
yeah.
try to call in as an antidote.
Yes. Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. That's a much more succinct way to say it. Yeah, it's like
Mm.
compersion isn't the cure. It is the
Right.
result of a relationship that, both the relationship work and the personal work that has, really been focused on and people are doing healing and self-discovery and all of that. Yeah, as an outcome. That's really good.
hmm hmm And I mean, some people ask, like, can you actually cultivate compersion directly? Are there practices that you can do? And, I would say yes. Like, besides cultivating a fertile terrain for it with the factors that we talked about, there are actually Buddhist meditations that promote something called mudita, which is the Buddhist version of compersion. It's sympathetic joy. And
Mhm.
it has to do with really drawing the circle of care wider, like imagining really like including this other person, let's say your partner's other partner, into your circle of care and visualizing your love going to them as well
Mm,
as your partner, and visualizing loving their love.
yeah.
You can actually practice imagining it, and that can really help. If that's something you want to do, I think it can be a really nice way to sort of like build the psychological path so that you kind of know where to go or what you want to feel and invoke it a little bit. But that in itself is not going to be enough. Like you have to build out your ecosystem, you have to build out your life, you have to build out your relationship with yourself so that it's sustainable.
One last question that just came to mind for me. So you talked about the six factors that kind of cultivate the fertile ground for compersion. Um, do all six need to be present? What did the research show in terms of that?
Well, they were all present for all of my participants, so I want to say pretty much yes.
Yeah.
But I'll put a caveat in that, is that if one is not present, you might have, you know, some compersion, but not, like as much as you could if the other one was present. So again, like I want to bring a very nuanced lens to this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've met people, actually, there was one participant who had never really heard the word compersion before because she had never been in a poly community. Her and
Uh,
her partner had been non-monogamous, but they were totally lacking the community aspect of it. They didn't talk about this with anyone else. Like she was so happy to talk to me about it because she was like, I'm experiencing this compersion thing, like, this happiness all by myself, and I've never had anyone to talk to about this. So it was, I think, an exception to the rule.
yeah.
Um, but, like otherwise, I would say like they're all pretty darn important.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so someone asked how many participants were part of the research, and Marie said at the beginning 25. Is that right?
Yeah, 25 plus, I think, seven polyamorous coaches and
Oh,
experts.
yeah. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, well, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
I will say my final thought and advice is to use compersion as a flashlight and not a stick.
Mm,
I wrote a blog of that title on my website, which is whatiscompersion.com. It's literally about like using the concept not to beat yourself up that, oh, I'm not feeling compersion, I'm not good, I'm not a good partner, but use it or the lack thereof to illuminate where are the places where my love is not flowing, where I'm not allowing it to embrace what is happening. And that can be just like educational, useful, informative, and potentially really healing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for being here. If you all have more questions or comments, I'll be posting this up on our Instagram pages. So feel free to keep the conversation going there. Ask us questions. Feel free to share anything. And thank you so much for taking this time to be with us today. I really appreciate your research and appreciate your willingness to come on and have this really important conversation.
Thank you so much, Heidi. It was so fun and vibrant. And yeah, thank you for everyone who's here and has been commenting. It's been really vibrant in the comment section. So I love that.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And maybe we can do this again sometime and continue
Yeah,
the conversation. There's so many different areas we could go with this. So
absolutely.
yeah,
So yes,
yeah.
continue the good work and I will talk to you soon.
All right, love it. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.